Jenna. Thank you so much for being on Browducation. I'm so stoked to have you here. This has been a long time coming for sure. I think I reached out to you during season 2 for season 3, and I'm so excited that the day is finally here. Go ahead and tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves. I'm sure they've heard of you before, but for those who maybe haven't.
Yeah, Megs, I'm so happy to be here. I love everything you're doing with this podcast. There needs to be more podcasts like this in this space. Yeah,
Thank you.
so I am a lash and brow business coach. I've been in the industry for 11 years now. I started out being a lash artist. I was just a solo lash artist for the first 3 years of my career. And then I ended up getting into education at that time. And I was kind of balancing doing both clients and doing lash courses. I just gradually ended up having a salon. I decided that I really wanted to have an employee-based salon, and we were strictly lashes and brows. I really wanted to fill a gap in our area for, what we were offering, what I was offering with my services, but on a larger scale. And so I ended up hiring a team, and the girls were just doing lashes and um I already lost my train of thought, Megs. I'm
It
like
happens.
I'm, like,
I
going
think I
backwards in
think it's
time. I'm like, "What was next?"
I feel like if there was any place to lose your train of thought, it's definitely trying to go back to your whole career and what has transpired.
Yeah, I know. It's been a lot of building blocks on each other, natural, segues into, the next step, what I felt like was the next step in my career. I'm trying to capitalize on what I had already done and also, balance that with what I felt like was missing and needed. So I really wanted to provide like a workspace for women who really wanted to prioritize their lash career and be the best that they can be with that. And I had all the tools available because I had experienced it with growing my own clientele. And so my girls just got super busy, and I really transitioned into more of a leadership role with that business and less of a service provider, which was what my goal was always. And then I ended up selling the salon last year just because, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, but it just for lifestyle, it was kind of turning into a beast that I was not sure I wanted to commit to for the rest of my life. And it just wasn't aligning with the lifestyle that I had wanted, which was really hard because it had become very successful. And, I'm sure we'll talk about that too, like pivoting a little bit and getting into other things with your job. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, but now I am just coaching lash and brow artists mainly. I do have some clients that are actually not even in this industry at all, just needing business basics. But mainly I'm focused on helping lash and brow artists just focus on their businesses, and they're kind of at that level where they have been working and taking clients, and they're, pretty much fully booked, and they're ready to really start focusing on their business, and that's kind of where I come in.
Love that, and I love what you were saying about, your salon ownership because I feel like we kind of see I wanna go on a couple different topics with that. I think that as far as building a salon and a salon environment, we see 2 different things, right? We see people who are just trying to turn a quick buck and make profit off of either employees or renters or whatever, and that's not really their thing. And then there's the opposite, which is nourishing and nurturing small business owners or employees to build them up and then create a wonderful space. So I love that you went the route of just trying to lift these up, and then I think that in turn you just immediately see that success, right? Like they grow, you grow, and everything performs so much better. And it's just such a, how can I put it, like a really great space for growth, I guess you could say. Like it's just nourishing in all of the different avenues that you need when you're in those places, which I love. So I love that that's the route that you went. And then also, I think the flip side of it, not as far as coming into it as like an employee or a booth renter, but also owning it. I think that's something that we glorify a little bit in the beauty industry. And I think that I love to see nowadays that there's more transparency around it because I think that we've glorified it so much so that when you get in that place, you're like, this is a shitload of work. This is so much work. Like it feels like the natural next step after, growing your own success as a solar artist or whatever it may be. And then being like, oh, wow, I kind of pivoted into the space of growing them. And then like, oh, this is so wonderful. Everything's blooming. Everything's doing so well. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, this is like so it's instead of having, because I think when we think of leveling up, we think of less work, right? We think of
Mm.
streamlining things and building systems and setting things into place to where we can back off. We can push off the gas a little bit and not be so full force. And then I feel like with salon ownership, it almost ends up being the complete opposite. Like you end up having to work almost more. How do you feel
Absolutely.
about that?
Yeah, I think it's a demanding, your role just I always say, I've said this so many times, like, if you are going to open up a salon, I still believe that, like, you're transitioning into a role where your role is going to you have to dedicate time and energy to that role. But, like, with employees specifically, I think a salon owner should be the marketer and then the one who's running the business behind the scenes in terms of admin and all the systems and all that stuff needs to be set up because, if they're not doing it, no one else is. And it becomes
100%.
really serious when you have someone else's paycheck, on your hands.
Yes.
It's definitely like, yeah, a lot more of a commitment and you should go into it with the mindset of I'm going to be stepping away from service provider and I'm going to be stepping into business owner of this business, not really taking clients. Like I think
Yeah.
I took clients like here and there, but
It can't be your forefront.
once I was able to get to that point about at the 2-year mark where I was able to like transition into just focusing on the business roles, my life got a lot easier. But with that, I think, like you said, people think that you step into this role and it's like very glorified and that you're going to make a bunch of money and all this stuff. But the work that's directly related to like that money coming in is every day, constantly.
Yeah.
There's no, like, stepping back, really. I mean, you can get to a point of course you can get to a point, but that's gonna be 10 years
Yeah.
down the road where you
Yeah.
hire someone to essentially do,
Your day
the
to day.
yeah, your day-to-day work, and I loved it so much, and I have a 5-year-old son. I
Yeah.
wish I had started it and, like, gotten it to a place where it was you I was able to have more staff to help with, like, the admin stuff. And I would've, like I feel like I would've loved it so much, but it is a very, very demanding role, and
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm having a lot more conversations with women who are being honest about that because just helps the industry as a whole if we can be honest about the amount of work that goes into every level, whatever that level is gonna be for you,
And I
and having a full understanding of that.
And I think it's really good for the newer, beauty professionals because I'm grateful for all of the conversations that I had had over my earlier years with people who were in those positions. I always pride myself on kind of being a sponge for the beginning, and I think that's what I like attest to my career and how where I've gotten and why I love education so much is because I do love being educated. And over the years, I remember consistently hearing it's more than you think, it's harder than you think, and like I'm grateful for that because it allowed me to pivot in different directions because I at one point I'm sure in young career I was like I want that. Like I want to build a career, I want to have people under me. However it looked at that point, and maybe it wasn't even brows at that stage, maybe it was facials or something like that. But I'm so thankful that I was told those things because it allowed me to let go of a mock dream. I wouldn't even say it was a true dream because I think when you're at the beginning, everything we have so many avenues. Our beauty license is a massive umbrella. There's
Mhm.
so many things that we can do, and I'm grateful that somebody was there to kinda kick some things off that goal path and just be like, "Okay," I think it just helps you fine tune, laser focus on what you actually want, and part of that process is letting go of things that don't align with you and wouldn't be your thing. I think that especially the further you get into being a solopreneur, we are looking for less. We're wearing so many freaking hats, and it's nice to know that I don't want to add a bigger hat. I feel like we want less hats, and so it's good to know. And I think great for any listener right now listening that is, um, at that stage where they're like, oh, wow, that could be a really fun goal to have. And then maybe don't know the dynamics of what it could be. And I think it's just good to know early on because I think that we get stuck on trajectories that may not be where we actually want to go.
Yeah, and I also have so many conversations with probably every single woman that becomes a client or someone that's potentially interested in being a client. I have a lot of hard conversations about the reality. I'm always asking, "What are your goals?" And then, they tell me, and I'm very realistic about like what it's going to take for you to get there. Um, and so, yeah, it's really valuable to have if you're not
Yeah.
seeking that information out to have someone hopefully, like, be real with you. It's just I think any version of success, any version of, like, leveling up, or whatever's next for you is going to require more at first upfront always. But, is it like a long-term play for you that's gonna like fit into like what the lifestyle is that you want? That I think those
Absolutely.
things are like not typically considered together.
Yeah, I agree, I agree. I think that part of it is also it's not only you envisioning what you want for your future career-wise, I think part of we there's a disconnect, right? I think we think that our life will be different when that stage becomes reality, right? Like,
Mhm.
somehow magically, as I work towards that goal, everything else over here will somehow align with it, and it's just never really the case, right? We can you have to be doing so much to have both of those trajectories meet up. And it does work for some people. I'm not going to say that it's an absolute never going to happen, but I do feel like majority of the time where you're at when you feel that momentum is probably where about you're going to stay, as you go, and it doesn't always align.
Yeah. Yeah, and I primarily work with women who are looking to take their business to whatever next level that is. And I just think having a healthy relationship with hard work, that's the goal. You
Yeah.
got to be okay with the journey of like working hard to get to where you want to be, but also you're not going to have like instant results. That's just when you're building something that's of quality and depth and sustainability, you got to enjoy the journey to get to that result whatever that is, but hold that result, like, lightly because
Yeah.
it's usually, like, something extrinsic, and it's not gonna be motivating for all
Yeah.
that it's gonna take and all the energy,
Yeah.
the work that it's gonna take from you.
Yes, and I think it also takes no matter what the goal is, it takes longer than you think it's gonna take, and I feel like I see that a lot. I felt that a lot when I was transitioning from just being behind the chair to also educating, because I thought, "Oh, well, I built this business. Of course this is gonna be an easy transition, and this is different, right? It's totally fine." And you think that because your first business has reached that stage, that your second business is already there, and it's never that case, it's starting from the very beginning, the genesis of it. So I think that there's a lot of skewed versions, and I think partially I do blame a little bit of social media because I think we see that highlight reel where we're just seeing all of these top tier, "Oh my gosh, I accomplished this and I accomplished that," which I love it. Cheerlead yourself forever. Always talk about your accomplishments, but I do think that it skews our perception of how quickly things manifest.
Yeah, well, there's, like, a skewed, like, sense of I learned this when I started like, when I transitioned into being a coach. How you sell your services is you do have to talk about that stuff, and like just like how you sell your lash services or your brow services, you do have to talk about the results and stuff, but like it has to be authentic and it has to be in a way that's not, that's not presenting something that's not true. I think
Yeah,
for
yeah.
advertising marketing can get a little bit skewed, and I think it's always gonna work best for you if you're just, like, being authentic and, like, genuinely, and this is why I think some people are more successful than others with their marketing is because some people are genuinely meaning what they're saying, and they're genuinely trying to get these results for people and, and genuinely actually getting the results for people, and we are very smart as humans, as women, like, we intuitively can pick up on those things. So trust your intuition when you're you're seeing the marketing that people are doing about,
X, Y, and Z.
yeah, and talking about, like, because yeah, you do gotta do it, that's the way that it works, that's the game, but, if it's not feeling, like, authentic to you or if it's feeling forced, then try to look at it from, like, a different perspective.
Yeah, I love that. So, from lashes to laptops, how did you decide to fully go online? What was the decision that was, like, make or break?
I don't know if it was one moment, I feel like my whole career like, truly, I feel like my whole career has been like a natural progression, and I've always focused on mastering what I'm doing. And so I think at this point I got to a point where I focused on things for so long that I help the women that I work with now without necessarily like having the goal of doing that, and I just learned a lot through a lot of trial and error. And so I think my experiences coupled with my deep intention of progressing in my career always by being open to learning and experiencing, like you said, you have to just, no matter where you're at, you have to be open to learning and experiencing. It kind of just led naturally to other people seeking my knowledge. And then at that point, whatever point that was, like, I don't even, oh gosh, it's been about 2.5 years, probably about 2.5 years ago is when I like really started to get serious about, you know,
Making this
pivoting into
pivot,
doing coaching, and I was balancing running the salon with doing coaching.
which is hard work.
Yeah, I felt pulled in a lot of different directions, and that was probably when I was like, "Okay, I wanted to take a look at, like, what was I naturally good at? What did I naturally enjoy doing? And then what did I want my lifestyle to look like?" Because those were, like, the conflicting things for me at that point. I just felt like I was at one point, I was commuting an hour to my salon both ways,
My
um,
gosh.
and so I was
Wow.
just, like, never home, and I struggling with that as a mom, I was struggling with that. I was having a hard time, like, taking care of myself, but I was very committed to, like, making my business work. So it was just a lot of balancing, and I think that's where we as women oftentimes get pulled in so many different directions because we can be good at being pulled in many different
Yes.
directions.
As much as we say we aren't good at multitasking, we're so freaking good at
Yeah.
multitasking. It's
No, I
a
claim I'm
detriment.
very good at multitasking, but is it good for me? I don't know. But yeah, it ultimately I feel very lucky and, like, almost like it's a luxury that I had, like, had a career built to this point that I was able to make this pivot and be able to, like, make a decision that was allowing me to spend more time with my family, have the lifestyle I wanted. And so then I was like, well, I'm already kind of doing this and I won't have to drive as much and I absolutely love it. I loved educating with lash courses, so I already knew that I was comfortable with helping women with, like, growing their businesses. I had built my employees' books with their help, of course, but I knew the game plan. Like,
Yeah.
I knew what it was gonna take to do those things, so I felt very I had a lot of results with that stuff. And so I just felt like it was a natural progression into, like, moving into coaching. What I noticed when I started coaching was that a lot of women were needing help with not just business strategy, but a lot of mindset stuff too.
Yes. Yeah,
And
we've talked about that.
yeah, I was on the other end of a coaching relationship where I was having a lot of support with all of these things. And so I knew that I wanted to be a coach that was able to help with not just the business strategy, but also, like, be there for you through all the hard shit that comes up.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up taking a life coaching certification program for, like, 6 months, and that has really, like, transformed my ability to, like, show up as a coach and really, like, change my perspective on it. So, yeah, I think it was just again, I was like, I wanna master being a coach before I'm fully being a coach, you know? So I was, like, really focused on that for a while, and then I was like, "Okay, now I'm ready to, like, full-time go do this."
Yeah. Was there like a "Holy shit, what have I done" moment after going 100% online at all?
No, I struggled a lot with with selling the salon. I had a lot of thoughts of just because I had been doing lashes for 10 years at that point, 9 years, and that was, like I was very good at it, so when you get really good at something, you're really comfortable with it,
Yeah.
and I felt really good and comfortable about being a leader for that business too. So, I felt like I was almost giving up on something that I was good at, like, by
Yeah.
the salon, and so that was
Yeah.
what I did struggle with. I did struggle with that a lot because I felt like I was kind of throwing away a good thing, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. A sure thing.
But I thought about it a lot. There was a lot of thought that went into it, and I just at the end of the day, I was, like, trusting my gut, and I was like, "If I ever wanna go back, I can." Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason why I can't, and that I
Totally.
mean, obviously, the ego stuff comes along with that too. But I definitely was like, this isn't the end of the world. If at the end of the day, if I miss it so much and I'm like, there's a big hole in my heart for it,
Yeah.
I'll go back to it. But I was pretty sure I was gonna be happy with this choice.
Yeah, and kind of going off what you're saying there is what did you notice any skills from being a lash artist and a salon owner that made you a better coach? Like, was there anything that you were like, "Oh, wow, this is like immediate transition?"
Yeah. Um, just the relationship dynamics in general, like building relationships with people and not feeling offended by things that don't mean anything about you, that type of stuff. Like just like the relationship dynamic as a whole, especially stepping into having employees and like having a team, separating my emotions from things to like what's actually going on and how I can solve a problem. That is has been probably a huge thing about coaching because with coaching I'm very invested in my clients and their success, but sometimes like life happens and like, people are struggling and things come up where they can't maybe do every single thing we're talking about doing and
Yeah.
then me, I take that on. Is it something that I did wrong or is it something
Yeah.
new? And those balancing, like separating those things has been, I've been practicing that for so long because it starts with clients. Like you're like
Yeah.
offended if someone doesn't come back or something when you're brand new, or you're like, oh my God, I messed that up so bad. But it's like you got to just like learn to like, bounce back quick
Yeah.
and just keep your head in
That's
the
a good
game.
way to put it. Yeah. Totally. What is one myth about online coaching that needs to die immediately?
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
I'm sure there is.
Oh, I think the biggest like thing that I see uh just marketing wise with coaches is like and I've had conversations with my clients about this too, because like I will have conversations with them about what like who else are you looking at? Like what other, what are you looking for in a
Yeah.
coach? Those types of questions. Because I'm genuinely curious. I want to make sure that like they're a good fit for me just as much as I'm a good fit for them.
Absolutely. That's important.
Yeah, and I think lot of coaches maybe share a little too much about the success stories, because then women will get in their heads about, "These are the results I'm gonna get, and I'm gonna get them quick too." And it's like,
That's a good
there's no
point.
backstory about how they got there, where they started.
Problem solving aspect.
Yeah, do they have kids? Do they have a family they're focusing on? Are they single and they're just, like, literally working all the time? Like, there's just so many things that I personally struggle with like marketing my business online, because I don't want to present some false illusion. I have very deep relationship with my clients where we usually work together long term, and I'm in a spot right now luckily where I have just clients referring people to me, so I'm not really having to show up as much, and that's nice too cuz I'm going on maternity leave in a couple months. But I think it's hard. Social media is hard in general just because there's so much more to the story always,
Yeah.
and we can easily
We need to
fall
remember that.
fall into believing that, like, if I hire this person, these are the results I'm gonna get. But there's so much more that you need to think about when you're looking for a coach. You need to look, you need to look at you need to I mean, everybody has different, like, ways of purchasing from someone anyways, like, everybody's a different buyer type, but for me personally, I'm okay with having multiple touch points with people before they're ready to, sign up with me, because I want them to make sure that, and you and me have had a lot of conversations. Like you've asked me questions and like how I would help in this specific, circumstance, or I'm totally okay with that, because I just think that this is a very like fragile, or not fragile, but a very like
Intimate.
yeah, intimate, like meaningful relationship to me as a coach, because like I'm in your business.
I feel the same way.
I'm not
Yeah.
here to just be here for an hour every 2 weeks and not
Yes.
you anymore. I am, like,
And I
very
think that's what really truly, like you're saying with other coaches and stuff, I think that's so real, and I think that's what makes you stand out so much more is that you do truly care, and it's not like it's not a let me get 6 coaching clients this month and I can make this much money. You know what I mean? Like there's a very big difference where you're only coming at them when they're ready and you're really like really making sure you have the time to care for them and they have the time to care for themselves and what they're doing and like I don't know, I think it creates a really symbiotic and relationship between you and your mentees, I guess you could say.
Yeah, totally, thank you, I appreciate that, and I definitely think everybody's different. I'm attracting people like you, people that are going to understand and respect and, like, value those things, whereas there are women who are like, "No, I wanna go balls to the wall. I wanna make that 20K month, like, next month," like, and that's just not my style of coaching, and that's important to me to present that, I guess, in a way that,
Yeah.
I'm not fooling anybody about, like, how you're gonna get there, or
Yeah,
how
exactly.
I got there, or how I would recommend approaching it, in good conscience, I guess,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. You're being realistic.
Yeah, I don't I've been burnt out, and it's hard because it's a very high possibility, you're gonna be burnt
Yeah.
out in your career, but that's why it's important to find, like, support and education and tools and resources that are going to, like, lessen that burden as much as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think every beauty pro should try coaching or education? Or why or why not?
That's a great question, because I think about it a lot. I have conversations with women in so many different, positions, and I didn't have a coach until I was like 6 years deep in this industry. Like I didn't,
Yeah.
coaching. I figured it out myself. I think it depends on what you're looking for. Like, a lot of women really value the accountability. Building a business, I think it's important starting out figuring out what you do best, how you operate. Do you even enjoy running a business? Because, like, if someone came to me and they're only a year in and they're like, "Help me," I would be like, it would be kind of hard because
Yeah.
I'd need to know, like, how committed are you to this? Because, that first year, that first 2 years is a lot of learning, and I think that that learning that you just naturally kind of get, if you're open to it, is so valuable going
Yeah.
forward. Like, it's like a foundation that you're building yourself, like a trust that you're building with yourself that you're not, like, looking for from someone else or somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm never gonna say no to someone who wants to reach their goals, but, like, it being a right fit would be important to look at for yourself to just be like, "Do I trust myself in running this business, and how confident do I feel? Like, do I even know what questions to ask?" Like, you get
Yeah.
questions to ask, so, I don't know, that I'm not gonna say a definitive yes or no. That's for me what I feel I like to do in these, like, discovery sessions with clients is I'm gonna ask all the right questions to get you thinking, about things, like, not just to, like, present what I can offer you, but, like, I want you to think about, things, I wanna ask the good questions for you and make sure that, you can answer them to the best of your
Absolutely. I completely agree. No, and I think that's good because honestly, I'm a firm believer no matter what course, class, coaching session, anything you take, because there's so many people I think that can say, "Oh, I took that thing and it was negative, it wasn't worth the money or whatever." And I think that that's kind of a very closed off way to view it because I think that sometimes it's not what you planned on getting out of it that you get out of it. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. Sometimes it's a light bulb moment. Sometimes it's, wow, I really don't want to do this. Or maybe I need to pivot. Or like you said, it was somebody early on in business and they're already seeking out questioning. It might be because I think back, like I feel like if I would have done that early in my career, I probably would have not stayed solo. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because it's freaking hard.
Yeah.
It's such hard work. Owning a business is so difficult. And I think that that's another thing we kind of glorify a little bit in the beauty industry is going out on your own, being a solo artist, the same way we solo artists kind of glorify the owning the salon type situation. I think that getting your license and immediately going solo is such a dream point that I don't think that we talk enough about the hard work that goes into it and how difficult it can be. And I think that when you are, I think most of us are a little bit hard headed in the sense that we really just want to do what we want to do. And I remember being told like it's hard work at the beginning, and I'm being like, and I was like, we're good. This is easier than working for somebody else. And that's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie. It is not easier than working for somebody else. And it's really
Yeah.
hard making all the decisions and doing all the things. So I just feel like I love that because I do feel like you would be the ideal coach for somebody at any stage of life because you wouldn't bullshit. You would just be like, you got this. You can do it. You'd be like, do you want to do it? Which I think is important.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, exactly what you said. You just have to get to know yourself as a business owner if that's what the route you wanna take. You gotta
Yes.
know how you make decisions. You gotta get to know if you again, back to do you even enjoy doing this? Do you wanna do
Yeah.
this? Like, I don't want you to make an investment in something that you're not, like, really your heart's not in and you're not gonna, like, be fully committed to because I want you to get those results just as bad as you do, you know? Yeah, I do think that you can't like, there's nothing that you can do to, like, change, like, the hard work up front that's required. And so like, having a high level of commitment to your business before you decide to, like, work with a coach and invest in coaching, because oftentimes the coaching is at a high ticket and, ideally, you get the return on that investment, but and get, the support that you need, but you gotta make sure that, you're gonna ask good questions when you're meeting
Yeah.
with
That's actually something that I've learned too, because I feel like a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, is probably when I started seeking out different coaches and working with the other professionals, contract with people and
Mhm.
figuring things out. And I know for a fact I was not asking any of the right questions at the beginning. You kind of, I think a lot of the times, one of the things, like you were just saying, is that you go into it thinking that the person that you're working with is going to solve all of your problems, but that
Mhm.
person doesn't know any of your problems. And I think that's the disconnect, right? You're like, I have all these things going wrong in my business. I want you to fix them. And you go into it and the other person's like, I have like a questionnaire. Like I don't know everything. Like I can't solve all of your problems because I'm not in your business with you or like you. So I think that's a really good point, and I think that's something that people should definitely think about when coaching is like, how much are you bringing to the table when you go into these sessions?
Babe, listen, you are too good to still be turning away threading clients because you don't know how. My hand time threading will literally change your beauty menu and your bank account. I break it down step by step, show you exactly how to make every client obsessed with their brows, and give you a skill that'll keep your schedule full. You don't need to wait another year to feel confident, you just need to start. Links in the show notes. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're exactly right. If you find yourself seeing someone and you're like, they're going to solve all my problems in my business, that is a great moment for you to reflect a little bit and decide what are those things that you need fixed and why
Yes,
before you look at finding the right person to help you with those things.
100%.
I never, ever, ever want any client to think I'm like saving them or like I'm like a savior for their business because
Yeah.
it's not a healthy, good relationship to have with someone else.
And I think it almost kind of gives clarity that there's more going on that needs to be solved. Maybe coaching isn't the right route because you've got a whole lot more work to do by yourself and before you're
Absolutely.
even dealing with anybody else.
Yeah, and of course, specifically my relationship with my clients, there's stuff that comes up that I am always there to support, but there's different levels of making business decisions that are, you haven't been making great decisions because of things that are coming up in your life. Like I can't help you solve all of these things for yourself. Like there is a level of accountability that like you have to have for yourself too.
Absolutely. What would you say beauty professionals are getting wrong when they when they try to grow their business online?
Online, give me like you mean like if it
Like
was like
anybody, yeah, anybody trying to get into coaching or maybe education or selling, online resources or anything where they're kind of pivoting from strictly behind the chair to growing some sort of semblance of an online business within their same ethos, I guess you
yeah.
could say.
I have 2 things. I think one is they're not figuring out how to differentiate themselves from all the other people doing the same thing they are. So, like, you need to have something that's different, and that needs to be feeding into your messaging and your marketing. That's what's gonna make you stand out. That's gonna make and this is the other like, the flip side of that is deeply, deeply understanding who you're speaking to, because
That's such a good point.
every single client I work with, they have no idea. They might even have a full book of clients. They couldn't tell me like with their marketing and their messaging like who they're trying to speak to. They
Yeah.
can't describe that person to me. So that's a huge part of the work that I do because your marketing and your messaging is a very large part of building your business, especially online right now.
Yeah.
So, like, figuring out how you're different, very important. What are you bringing to, let's, like, say it's just education specifically. What are you bringing that everybody else isn't? Or how can you talk about it in a way that other people aren't talking about it? That's, like, the only way you're gonna stand out to people at this point. Not the only way, but that's a
The biggest
very
way, probably. Yeah.
yes, that's a very huge part of it right now. And then just getting so clear on who that person is that you're trying to call in to be taking your courses or signing up for your coaching or, becoming a lash client or brow client, whatever it is. I had this conversation with you too. You need to be talking to like, what are they experiencing every day and calling out and like putting that into a story for them to understand that you are the right person for them.
Yeah. Totally. And that's
Another thing is
hard. It's one of the hardest things that I think I've had to deal with because I
it
think
is
putting it in like perspective or specific perspective is like me talking to a client, I like they want good brows.
hard.
Done, easy. Like that was their problem. I'm the solution. Easy. Like that plugging and playing is so simple from that route. But the other thing that I think we forget about is the reason that that is so simple is because I've been doing that for 10 years. Right?
Hmm.
I've been doing that plug and play and I've been problem solving for brow clients forever to the point where it's like autoplay with right. I'm like I'm on
Yeah. You're very well versed in the struggles, the wants, the needs, the values of who that person is, and so you can
yes.
easily solve that for them. And
But
yeah, it's
switching it to,
exactly
like, another professional or education route is so difficult, and I think that we get in our head about it too. Whereas something that I've been trying to do recently is because sometimes I get too inquisitive about it. I'm like, "Well, what would they want?" And I'm asking too many questions instead of dialing into what they are, and sometimes what's helped me recently is, like, what was I experiencing?
Mhm.
was the reason that I chose threading over waxing, because that's, my kind of bread and butter is teaching threading. And what was the reasoning that that clicked more than waxing clicked for me? And so I think that sometimes when you can't figure out what the other person needs and why it works for them, sometimes it's better to go back to who you were when you found the thing that you're good at. And sometimes that can be the person that you're looking for, or the ideal client can be you 10 years ago or whatever it may be. And sometimes that can help at least kickstart it, kind of starting
Yeah,
to find those problems.
I think the majority of the time, you are trying to target who you were at some point. And it is hard. We kind of talked about this at the beginning, like revisiting like what happened in the past and stuff. And
Yeah.
but
We blur
that's a
out some things.
yeah, you kind of do. You block it out. At least,
Hard.
yeah, like don't think about all the hard times. Uh, but also, what can be really valuable is just having conversations, like building. I know you have a what's it called? The community on Instagram, like the
Like the little channels.
yes, the channel. And, like, just, like, asking questions and genuinely being curious. That's a huge thing that people are not doing because 'cause they're so, focused on their own, whatever is going on and, like, focused on your own self-doubt and all that stuff. Like, channel that into being productive and get very curious about this person. If you aren't sure who that person is, you ask questions. Like, there are people you can talk to that are in a position that you once were and ask them the questions that you don't know the answer to right now because you're just not sure. And like obviously like things change so much and evolve so much in the beauty industry too. So how we were experiencing, 5, 6, 7 years ago versus what girls are experiencing now can be very different. But at the heart of it all, like you just have to get down to like the nitty gritty of like what are their values? What are they seeking in education? What results do they want? Who do they want to get them there? And that's another big thing I think of like showing up online is you got to show up with the energy of who you want to attract. Because your energy is felt even through the screen. You got to show up as the person that you want to show up for, whoever that is and be there for them. Um, Even if sometimes it's like falling on deaf ears, like you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the
And I
first
think
thing you help Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing. I think a lot of people who are looking for education, coaching, whatever it is, they're looking for someone who they feel very confident is going, they're showing up very
Yeah.
confident. They're showing up like, talking about all these things that they want. And that's an easy thing for you as the person who's, trying to reach those people. Just show up and, say those things that you wish you were hearing back
Yeah,
then.
totally, totally. What's the first thing you help your coaching clients work through or understand? Kind of going back to, like, the ethos of your first time meet with a new client.
What we actually talk about versus like, okay, goal setting is always taught like very first thing. I want to get a very clear idea of what your goals are.
Which is
That is
probably hard for some.
oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's surprisingly very hard for people.
To
And
narrow it
that
down at least.
well, I mean, I think if you're very clear on your goals, then you would know, how to you would have some like semblance of an idea of how to get there.
That's a great point.
But oftentimes we aren't clear on that and I have to like really push people sometimes. Like I'm like, "Okay, but why? Like
I can see that.
why do you want to have a salon? Why do you want to be a educator?" And it's very surface level at first usually.
Yeah,
And some people like we can get into it a little quicker, but some people it takes a little bit of time to like really like get underneath the surface with it. So that's usually like where we start. But after that, it's always finances. It's always
yeah,
numbers.
because 'cause we're not good at it. We are not natural born accountants.
Yeah, no, and neither was I. But once you learn it, it's just like obviously logistically speaking, like with like what a starting point is
Yeah,
I don't have any data or numbers. Like I don't want to base any like decisions off of what we feel like we're doing in our business.
yeah,
So logistically, strategically, getting really curious about numbers. Stop telling yourself that you're not a numbers person. It's not helping you.
true.
Or that it don't make sense because you just cannot grow what you don't know. Like you just can't.
Yeah,
Like that is just a fact. And for me personally, once I finally, decided that I was like, no, I gotta figure this out, it took so much emotion out of my business because it was so
Yeah.
helpful in guiding decisions. So yeah, that's along with
I think it's
obviously goal setting initially,
confidence
like the
too.
numbers are yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. Well, there's always like a dip because it's like you feel guilty that you haven't been tracking these things. You are confused.
Yeah.
You feel kind of like inadequate a little bit with your
Yeah.
business. But once you get past that, it's a game changer for how you run your business. It's just so, so incredibly valuable.
I think we're lucky too because I think that most small businesses wouldn't be able to run off vibes. I don't think they would be able to get successful, but as a beauty professional, you kind of can. I mean, I know, and I laugh about it now because I feel like I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, we're actually making money and like actually
Yeah.
doing it. But there's a long time where you're not turning a profit and you don't even know because money is coming in and it is what it is. And like we're running off vibes, we're having a good time, we're working with clients, we're doing the fun job. And then all of a sudden, a couple years, and you're like, this is not sustainable. I don't even know what or how I got here. I don't know how I made it work.
Especially now is like, the just the way things are shifting with our world is, you really do have to get very curious about what is your profit margin? What are you actually taking home every day?
Yeah.
Because you might be bringing in like very high sales volume, but your profit is like $500. So you're like literally bringing home $500 every month. That's a
Crazy.
recipe for not being having a long-term business for sure.
Yeah. 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 Totally. What would you say to the beauty pro listening who feels stuck but scared to pivot?
I think, and this kind of goes back to like this, what we just were talking about, but like revisiting your why. If you're struggling, I think a lot of times, and this is just a general statement, but like you probably are like misaligned in what you want or why you want it. And I think once you can understand and get real with yourself about that, you can understand what it takes to get to wherever it is you want to go. Whether that is a pivot or just like keep going with what you're doing. But I think a lot of times if you're, struggling, that you really need to come back to like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Because for me, like,
Yeah.
I recognized that I was really caught up in the image of everything. Um, and I wasn't doing what I wanted, that was best for me in my life. And financially, just like it's
I agree
just
with that
you
totally.
gotta really understand your why, and then you can get more clear on like how to get there. And if you're not sure how to get there, that just means, you need to dedicate more time to understanding and researching and reading and finding valuable resources that will get there instead of like flying blind every day. Cause I think the
Yeah.
struggle comes from not feeling like you're, not getting results with whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's what I notice is like where the struggle is coming from. And this is why it's hard to be your own boss because no one's telling you what to do every day. Like you are the
Yeah.
one who's making that decision.
Yeah.
You should be very, very confident and intentional with every single day of your work that you're doing. If you're not, um, then I think that's a time where you need to take a step back. Stop looking at what everybody else is doing. Like just literally stop.
Such good advice.
It's
Yeah.
hard, but that is pulling you so far away from what you really want inside and
So
what your
true.
why is and what's next for you. So stop doing that so that that time with whether that's like hiring someone for help or just seeking out the information and resources you need to like understand, you know, how to get there. I was on a panel for conference and we were talking about this and we were just talking about like for me specifically, like, I had to rein it in and, like, I had to, like, go back to myself and, like, work on myself so that I could
Yeah.
understand what I really wanted and what my why was. So I think if you're, struggling that you have probably some work to do, on yourself too.
Totally. And I feel like that's a good point. When you are struggling and that not knowing which way to go, I think it is time to be introspective and be like, okay, what do I even want? Because there's obviously me not being able to make that decision is a very clear sign of me being unaware of what I really truly want. I think
Yeah.
that's great advice.
And I think so many women I work with are so misguided on, like, what's required of them too, because
Yeah.
they have a weird idea of, like, what their goal is that there actually isn't really their goal.
Yeah.
Or they're not sure what they want or they see someone else that, like, they
Yeah.
admire who's, like, 15 steps ahead of them.
Yeah. They're like that. I want that.
Or yeah, and it's like, you here and, like, we need to work on, like, the here first so that you can build upon getting to like that, whatever that is. And is that actually what you really want, you know?
That exactly.
So yeah, I think like that disconnect, that struggle comes from not really being super clear on like why you're doing what you're doing at this point.
Totally. Okay, just a last few questions. Online business gives you freedom. What's the most unhinged or luxurious thing you've done with it?
I mean, it still feels like wrong for me to like be on vacation and
Yeah.
like be taking calls. I don't live close to my parents, so like I go visit them pretty often and I'm like, this is so weird to like not be stuck to a place, a location.
Yes.
So I mean that feels wrong to me still for some reason, but very,
You're
very,
working
very
through it.
real. Yes,
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
yeah.
What's a beauty industry red flag that no one wants to admit exists?
Jeez.
We're getting spicy at the end.
Beauty industry red flag. I mean, I feel like we've talked about this so many times, but I just think the presentation of this lifestyle that is the
Yeah,
dream
that's a good one.
lifestyle. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, and I speak from experience of falling into like that, you
Trap.
know, I don't know if it's just being young and like wanting that, or I don't know what it is, but I think probably a big part is not being sure of myself of what I want and what, you know, is going to work for me. But yeah, falling into that trap of that just the lack of the journey to get there.
Yeah. I think that Yeah, I think the biggest part is also just I think it goes to just the ethos of what the beauty industry is. It's all beautiful, right? Like it's a aesthetic, gorgeous, stunning industry. Like there's celebrity aspect, there's beauty. Everyone wants a piece of this pie, which I
Mhm.
think almost blew up the industry's ego, right? Like the whole industry as a whole has quite the ego. And are there people doing those things? 100%, 100,000%. But I think the reality is that not everyone's doing that. And I think that you're right. Like, I think we blow up the trajectory, what the actual day to day looks like. I think there's just so many different things that are blown out of proportion and misrepresented in the industry, especially on.
Yeah, I just want, again, back to something I said earlier, I just want the relationship to the hard work to be understood
Yeah.
and to be healthy on some level. Like, I'm not gonna say I had a healthy relationship with hard work for a long time, but I've learned, and so I feel like that's why I can speak on it, that I'm not attracted to what everybody else is doing. I'm not comparing myself to what I'm very happy with, like, my life, and I'm
Yeah.
happy with the decisions I've made, and but it was a long time of hard work too. Like,
Yeah.
yes, having those things are so amazing, and like being in a position where you can have, you know, all of these things that you want and, you know, look great to everybody and all that stuff is that's I mean, if that's your goal, I'm not here to judge you on that. Like if that's your goal, I understand, you know,
Yeah.
that
No, totally.
goal, but you got to also balance that with you're going to have a lot of shitty times too of hard work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Absolutely.
really stop, you know, if that's your lifestyle, like maintaining that lifestyle is going to require a lot of dedication from you. So again, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want all those nice things along with all of the hard work it takes to get them? Then that's
Yeah.
fine. Do it.
Yeah. And I think to play devil's advocate, I think the other thing that we should realize is that if you don't want those things and you don't want all the hard work, that's okay. Like you
Mm.
don't have to be the one that's crushing it and seeing celebrities and moving to LA and working with massive brands and doing partnerships. You don't have to do that. And I think that the same way you don't have to be a solopreneur, you don't have to run a salon. You don't I think that we need to get a little bit more curious on how we want to do things, and not
Mhm.
have these blown up viewpoints of what it should be. I think most of us got into this industry or some realm of this industry for freedom. And I think that it's funny to watch everyone's blow up and go away the second they get any momentum. They're like, oh, well, this is what I should be doing. Who cares about the freedom? I'll work 24/7. It's fine. Like, I think it's funny that we move so far away from that. And I think that you're right. Like, I think that what everyone's perfect viewpoint or dreamland version of what this is doesn't have to be yours. And like, I think that it's fun to watch people do things their own way. And I think there
Yeah.
needs to be more of that.
Yeah, those people you see that have all of these like beautiful things and have this successful business, they are trying to be the best that they can possibly be, like literally the best in the industry. And that requires a level from you that, you know, you're going to have to dedicate your whole life to.
Huh.
And it's okay if you don't need that, and it's okay if you just wanna live a comfortable life and, be able to have time as your, currency instead of having
Yeah.
having to have your life dedicated to working all the time, because that
Yeah, and it's okay for this to be your job, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay for this just to be your job. Like, it doesn't have to be your entire life, and I think that that's something that I don't even think that ever crossed my mind when I got into the industry. Like, I don't think that it ever was a thought that I could just do this for work. You know what I mean? Like, it
totally.
definitely is my whole life, and that's my own thing, and I do love it. Eat, sleep, and breathe this, industry, but that doesn't have to be everyone's thing, and I think that if I can be one person to be like, "Hey, you don't have to do this," then I want to be.
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly. Like I had a phase of my career where that was me too. That's what led me, to where I'm at now, but there was a phase where I was able to and I wanted to just work all the time and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But, life you have things change in life and
That's
that's okay
another
too.
good point. Yeah, that's another good point is where you started doesn't have to be where you end, it can be your life. And, I think especially as women, as we change and grow, maybe we have children, maybe we get married, maybe we do different things. And as our life evolves, it's okay for the business and our version of the beauty industry and our version of how we utilize our license can change. And I think that's another thing that I think change is hard for most people just in general. But I think the other thing that we have working for us, but also against us, is how much our emotions are intrinsically tied to this industry. I think we have a lot of empathy for our clients. We have a lot of empathy for, people, and we work with people when sometimes they're at their lowest, maybe, their own confidence, their self confidence, body dysmorphia or something like that, where we're trying to help them, come through that other side. Our entire industry is very, very emotional. We have a lot of emotion that comes into it. And like you were saying earlier with finances and separating the emotion from the business, it's so difficult to do. And I think that's a part of what makes the change harder. But I think that we just have to remember that we're people, we evolve, our life changes over time who you are when you're 18 versus 27, and then from there to your 30s and there from your 40s and so on and so forth. I think that we don't need to be the same, you know for that entire time and period. I definitely am a completely different person than I was when I first got into the industry, when I got my license, to where I am now as a completely different human being. And I think that another thing that I want to be is just somebody that says that's okay and we can adapt. And the cool thing about the industry is that it is adaptable, and we have to remember that.
That's what yeah, I was gonna say that is such a that's like one of the best parts about this industry is there are so many different directions you can go with it, whether that's scaling it or whether that's downshifting and cutting back. Like there's so much available. And that's what I think ultimately, like you said, a lot of us got into this industry for that freedom. And that freedom, what that freedom looks like changes, whether that's financial freedom or that's time freedom. Like
Yeah.
those are very different things, and we have access to being able to do that. And that was back to me selling the salon. That was for me, that was hard because that was the transition. That was a time where I was transitioning my expectations of myself based on what they had been for so long. And that's a struggle because identity shifts are real.
Yeah.
As someone's like that had a kid and stuff, like there's things that can happen in your life that you can make your business work for you, and I think that's such a beautiful thing about this industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really great place to end too. Thank you so much for coming on. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. And I think we're very aligned on how we kind of view the industry, which I always love when I have these conversations. So I appreciate you being on Browducation, and I know that my listeners will love this episode. And thank you.
Thank you, Megs. I am so happy that we were able to have this conversation.
Me too. Well, thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you next Thursday.